How did Chaldeans compute their national calendar? One may ask how Chaldeans calculated the actual date of the Chaldean Babylonian calendar. Also, what archaeological, biblical, and scientific evidence support this conclusion? The Proto-Chaldee, pre-Sumerian culture, first celebrated the New Year festival, Akitu Akitesigar 1025, in the month of Nisanu, when there was an equal amount of daylight and darkness. It recounts the rebirth of the natural order. It is worth noting that the academic term Proto-Chaldee was used for the first time in 1988, by historian Amr Hanna Fatuhi, who named the pre-Sumerian culture Proto-Chaldee. This term first appeared in his study entitled Ur of Chaldeans. An Iraqi perspective. Proto-Chaldee became common among Iraqi scholars in the 1990s and worldwide in 2004. Present-day Chaldeans, descendants of the Proto-Chaldee, resumed celebrating Akitu worldwide starting in 2000 with the Chaldean Educational Center of Americas, SECA. Akitu celebration. SECA followed and honored the traditional joyous days of the New Year festival that their Proto-Chaldee forefathers celebrated. This celebration first took place in the Chaldean capital, Eridu, Nunki, aka Sumerian, Eridug Ki, Akkadian, Iritu. Eridu was founded in the 6th millennium BC in the heart of the Chaldean historical homeland Mat-Kaldul. This national festival marked the beginning of Chaldean Babylonian history in 5300 BC. To unify native Mesopotamians, our Babylonian ancestors decided around 1894 BC to combine the two ancient New Year celebrations, Akitu, during the spring equinox in the month Nisanu, and Shag Kol Zag Muk, which literally means, beginning of the year, celebrated at the autumn equinox in the month Elul Tashrita September-October. The Babylonians were the first to celebrate the unified New Year festival of Akitu at Eridu, the sacred quarter of Babylon. Since then, Babylon became the only legitimate capital city to conduct this holy event between April 1st and April 11th. The only exception to the celebration of Akitu took place around 689 BC after the 9-month siege and conquest of Babylon in 691 by Sennacherib, who systemically sacked Babylon. However, moving the statue of Marduk to Assur and celebrating Akitu in Assyria did not last for long. The reign of Sennacherib ended in his assassination by his sons while he was praying in front of the Marduk statue, biblically, Nisroch. Sennacherib's children killed him for the destruction he brought about in Babylon, the most sacred city of Mesopotamia. When Esarhaddon became the king in 680 BC, he hastened to return the statue of Marduk and rebuild Babylon as he felt respect and reverence toward the great city. Esarhaddon also reinstated the Babylonian Akitu. This fact is supported by historians and archaeologists who support the assertion that Chaldeans are the indigenous Mesopotamians whose local dynasties ruled both regions of Babylonia and Assyria. It is also worth noting that the New Year festival rituals began in Babylonia and continued for thousands of years in that region until its last performance in the 2nd century BC. This well-documented fact indubitably indicates beyond doubt that Chaldean history which began at the Mat-Kaldee region in 5300 BC is a solid fact that can be proved beyond doubt according to the following. 1. Any Mesopotamiologist knows that giving two cities the same name was rare, yet, it was an acceptable, and most likely, unpleasant practice. Also, it was forbidden to use the sacred name of an existing temple by people of another city because temples in ancient Mesopotamia were considered living beings, and a living being cannot exist in two places at the same time. However, both Eridu and Babylon were called by the same ancient name Nunki, and the Esagila temple's name was deliberately used in both cities. What is quite fascinating about this point is that the people who built Eridu and its suburb Kuera of Marduk Sarlui are the same people who built Babylon and its temple Esagila. 2. Eridu and Babylon are the only cities in ancient Mesopotamia that hold the exact same name, Nunki, which means, the homeland of life. This sacred name applied only to these two cities throughout Mesopotamia's long history, Eridu according to the Nam-Lugal list, and Babylon according to Berossa's chronicles. It is also worth noting that the sacred neighborhood in Babylon where the Tower of Babylon Ziggurat-e-Temenanki and E-Sagila, the Temple of Marduk, are located, is called Eridu. 3. The records of the Chaldean king Nabonassar, 747 to 734 BC, who admits destroying most of the historical records of the Chaldean kings who preceded him, mentions Nabonassar collected together the records of the deeds of the kings before him and destroyed them so that the reckoning of Chaldean kings might start with himself. See page 113, Joan Oates, Babylon, Thames Hudson, Revised Edition, 1986, also reprinted in 2000. It is also documented that in 689 BC Sennacherib not only destroyed most of the Chaldeans' records, burned libraries, and demolished the temples, but he also destroyed the entire city of Babylon as was recorded in his own chronicles. The below excerpt from Sennacherib's record can easily verify this fact. As a hurricane proceeds, I attacked it, Babylon, and, like a storm, I overthrew it. Its inhabitants, young and old, did not spare, and with their corpses I filled the streets of the city. The town itself and its houses, from their foundations to their roofs I devastated, I destroyed, by fire I overthrew. In order that in future even the soil of its temples be forgotten, by water I ravaged it, I turned it into pastures. To quiet the heart of Ashur, my lord, that peoples should bow in submission before his exalted might, I removed the dust of Babylon for presents to the most distant peoples, and in that temple of the New Year festival, in Assur, I stored up some in a covered jar. Georges Roux, Ancient Iraq, pages 322 to 323. Fourth, the Bible confirms in more than one place the deep and rich history of the Chaldeans, asserting that they are a nation ethnicity since ancient times. For example, Jeremiah stated that Chaldeans come from a long-lived nation, an ancient nation. Jeremiah 5:15, U.S. Catholic Bible. Genesis and Habakkuk also validate this fact. 5. Nebuchadnezzar II, Dinger na bai ku dur Ri-yu-yur, the Sun King and the Maker of Wonders 604 to 562 BC, is a king like no other king in ancient history. Nebuchadnezzar II attained the zenith of celebrity status as the builder of Great Babylon in his golden era. He was the mastermind of one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Hanging Gardens, the Tower of Babel, and Babylon's walls. He is the king who was biblically allowed to return to God's grace after being punished. Daniel 4. In his chronicles, Nebuchadnezzar called himself the king of Babylon, the king of Akkad, the king of Sumer and Akkad. He also linked his family tree to the Akkadian emperor, Naram-Sin 2254 to 2118 BC, and the grandson of Sargon of Akkad 2334 to 2279 BC. 6. It is worth noting that Sargon the Great, in his chronicles, stated that he built his city-state of Akkad with the holy sand of Babylon. Sargon the Great is considered the first emperor in the world's history and is famously known as a descendant of the Proto-Chaldee. Sargon was originally from Kish, the first city-state that ruled the Babylonian region post-deluge, Great Flood. Furthermore, Kish from the onomatology angle is the name which the biblical names Cush, Kasdim Kashdim, and Chaldean are derived from. 7. Hassan al-Najafi, the prominent historian, is the first contemporary Arab scholar that used the name Chaldean to designate the ethnicity of Emperor Sargon of Akkad in his compelling encyclopedic book, Dictionary of Terms and Biographies in Mesopotamia, Volume 1, Baghdad, 1983. Likewise, the renowned Babylonian historian, Berossus, listed Sargon the Great among 191 Chaldean kings, in his 3-volume Babylonica, starting with Cosmobilos. The same ethnicity-nationality designation, Chaldean, that was used by Berossus, was also used by other scholars, i.e., Adai Shurs, Yusuf Rizkala Ganima, etc. 8. The famous ancient Encyclopedia Babylonica was in part a combination of the most reliable ancient Mesopotamian records and popular Chaldean mythologies. It was also highly valued by the Greek and other classical historians. Babylonica, aka Chaldeanica, asserts that the Chaldean dynasty was the first to rule Mesopotamia since the pre-deluge time. It also confirmed that the first Mesopotamian king was Chaldean. See Taha Bakir, The Epic of Gilgamesh, 1986, page 209. Conclusion: a court of law usually requires 2 witnesses to ratify a testimony, which was also practiced in biblical times. However, we have brought to your attention not 2 or 3 but 8 solid references. We could also add to the above-mentioned tens of linguistic proofs and other historical records that exist in Mesopotamian literature. Thank you so much for watching. If you find this video useful, like and subscribe to the Mesopotamian Knowledge channel for more content soon. Thanks a lot and hope to catch up with you shortly.